Hello, my name is Fischer and I'm a current master's student at the University of Exeter in the UK. And today I'm presenting the findings of my master's thesis research on the changes in benthic community composition on coral reefs in Laamu Atoll. To give you some background, climate change is causing ever more frequent coral mass bleaching events globally, which causes corals to expel their symbiotic algae, often resulting in widespread coral mortality. The Maldives has experienced two very severe coral bleaching events in the past few decades. The first one in 1998 led to over 80% coral loss in many places, and the 2016 event, though less severe, still led to very high coral loss throughout the Maldives. In Laamu Atoll, the 2016 bleaching event was particularly severe because 75% of corals bleached. In 2019, a baseline survey of Laamu's coral reefs was conducted to assess the reef recovery since the 2016 bleaching event. And this study builds on that baseline survey to assess the ongoing recovery of Laamu's reefs since 2019. So specifically, I aim to investigate the spatial temporal changes in the benthic community composition since 2019, using hard coral cover as an indicator of reef health, and also to investigate reef recovery dynamics over time and effects of anthropogenic and non-human reef impacts. Survey efforts were a combined effort by Maldives Resilient Reefs and the MUI team from Sixth Census Laamu, and these surveys took place from August 2021 to June 2022. We surveyed a total of 28 sites, which consisted of 19 sites that had already been surveyed in 2019, which are yellow on this map, and then 8 new sites that were only added this year, so the green sites on this map. These sites encompassed a number of different reef types, including channel reefs, outer reefs, inner reefs, and keelers. At each site, we surveyed 2 depths, either 5 meters and 10 meters, or 10 meters and 50 meters, depending on the type of reef. We used 2.5 by 100 meter belt transects to assess the number of reef impacts. So that's things like damage from crown of thorns starfish, pincushion starfish, damage from dropeller species, and any fishing lines or trash. And we also recorded a video of the transect, which would allow us to assess the benthic community composition. So from these videos, I would take screenshots to analyze in a software called Coral Point Counts with Excel, which calculates the percentage cover of each benthic category. And then I would move on to statistical analysis in R. So presenting some of my results now. Overall, there was a significant increase in coral cover over time, which is really positive and suggests that Laamu's coral reefs are recovering from the 2016 bleaching event because coral cover has increased even more since 2019. So in 2019, the average coral cover across Laamu was 17%, whereas this year it was 27%. So you can see that on the left here, but also on the graph on the right. I've just highlighted this increase in coral cover. Some other interesting things to note are the increase in sponges. So in 2019, there were hardly any sponges observed, whereas this year sponge cover was much higher, which has potential implication for the ecological functioning of the benthic community as a whole, because sponges have quite different ecological functional roles and provide different sorts of habitats than hard corals. However, this might also partially be due to observer bias, because the sponges were ID'd by different people in 2019 and 2022. So these trends are for Laamu as a whole, with the data averaged across all sites, there's actually quite a lot of spatial variation. So these maps show the percentage coral cover in 2019 on the left and 2022 on the right. And at first glance, it's quite clear that most of the sites have increased quite a lot in coral cover since 2019, indicated by the darker and larger circles on the right map. The highest coral cover in 2019 was at the Baidu inside at 34%, whereas the highest coral cover this year was 42% at Rada Shaha. Overall, there were 3 sites that had coral cover of over 40%, so the 3 sites with the 3 dark red sites on the right here. And these sites are getting quite close to pre-bleaching levels, which is quite exciting. So this map shows the percentage change over time. So red circles represent an increase since 2019 and blue circles represent a decrease. So again, that's really positive because most sites showing a really strong increase over time, and there were only 4 sites that showed a decrease. And there were actually 6 sites that increased by more than 100%. The most spectacular increase was at Mava Inside, where coral cover quadrupled from only 8% in 2019 to 40% this year. Mava Outside, just opposite, on the other hand, coral cover there declined by just over half since 2019. The site that showed the least change over time was Hitadu Inside, where coral cover only declined marginally. There was a significant relationship between the initial coral cover in 2019 and the percentage change in coral cover over time, which might help explain some patterns of recovery we're seeing. So at very low initial coral cover, the recovery rate seems to be highest. So these sites experience the greatest increase in coral cover over time, whereas sites that had moderate initial cover have a bit more of a variable rate of recovery, but the overall trend is still strongly positive, showing increases mainly. And sites that had the highest initial cover in 2019 seem to show the greatest declines in coral cover over time, so they haven't recovered any further. Let's take a look at the spatial variability. So I looked at differences between the different depths that we surveyed, the different reef types, and the 2 different sides of the atoll. There weren't any major differences between the depth. Coral cover was not significantly different, either between depth, reef type, or side of the atoll. And although coral cover was slightly higher on the eastern than the western side of the atoll. The total number of reef impacts increased significantly since 2019, so it's more than doubled over time. And in 2019, fishing lines and trash were the most commonly observed impacts, whereas this year, propeller damage was the most common impact. So it's quite interesting to note that change from mostly human impacts towards more non-human impacts like propeller damage. So just to summarize my key findings, there's been a significant increase in hard coral cover since 2019, which is really encouraging and seems to suggest that Laamu's coral reefs are recovering quite well from the 2016 bleaching event, but also that recovery is still ongoing because pre-bleaching levels of 50 to 60% haven't quite been reached yet. There wasn't much spatial variability between different depth or reef types or sites of the atoll in terms of the benthic community composition, and there was a significant increase in reef impact since 2019, with a notable increase non-human impacts such as damage from propeller snails. That's it from me. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the symposium.